I'm a member of staff at Swansea Carers Centre and was seconded through the Carers Measure Act. I was based at the West Hub with a multidisciplinary team where there were social workers, occupational therapists and the health teams there too. Referrals really came through the intake team or through the team leader, and at the consent of the carer I would then go out and carry out the carer's assessment as an independent person. When people were referred to me, I'd ring them up and make it very clear that the assessment was about them. I think the term assessment can be intimidating. People sometimes think that you're going in to assess what they're like as their carer, are they fulfilling their carer's role properly, and I make it very clear to them that this is about them. And in having somebody independent, I think having somebody independent, they're afforded the time. Social workers, OTs have a large workload, whereas I think I had the luxury of perhaps spending 2 or 3 hours within the home and having a broad-based knowledge of not only the third sector but the statutory organisations as well. The advantage of being a third sector worker means that the onus is very much on joint working within the third sector. So I do have a broad-based knowledge of what agencies are out there and what's out in the community as well. So many of the carers' needs would have to be met by the statutory organisations, direct payments, sitting service, day services. But there are other needs there as well, social needs. Are they able to meet relations? So I would, if somebody was to say they were interested in fishing, it was then my job to go out in the community and look to see what was out there. I would then bring them back. Carers are busy enough as it is without looking to see what's in their community. So it's basically taking a little bit of a load off their shoulders. And as I said, I think the most important part of the role was the fact that I was able to spend time with people and peel off the layers. Very often people will say, I'm fine. 2 hours within the assessments, then we find what is actually needed to protect the health and the well-being of the carer as well as the cared for. So I liaise with many agencies in order to fulfil the assessments. Age Cymru, Hafal, yoga classes, digital inclusion classes, libraries. So it was the whole gamut of whatever's out there within the community and what agencies are out there, and of course the health and the social work teams too. On reflection, I found the pilot scheme was a success, not only because people gained extra services through the statutory organisations, but they also became aware of what was available through Swansea Carers Centre: holistic therapies, counselling, financial advice, life skills, many of whom hadn't heard of what was out there for carers specifically. I recall one lady in particular, she had been paying for counselling for the past 3 or 4 months, and she was overjoyed to hear that not only could she get counselling free, but the counselling was through somebody who was specifically trained to counsel carers. I think the most popular project on Swansea Carers Centre was the holistic therapies, and I think that was a way of showing carers that we care for them, that they deserve to be pampered, and not only that, to raise awareness that they need to focus on their own health, and they deserve to be looked after themselves, because if their own health and their own well-being is suffering, then they're not going to be able to carry out their caring role in the long term.
I became a carer for my mum when she had a stroke 12 years ago. Previously, my father had been ill for a couple of years and my mother was his carer. When she became ill, I became her carer. I have a brother who lives away, so it's just me. Over the years, my mother's condition has got worse as she's got weaker. It affected her left side and now she can't walk, she's in a chair. She goes to a day centre 1 day a week and she has to go in her chair in a taxi, and then the bus brings her back home. But she's her mental facilities have got weaker as well because she's not interacting so much with people, and all her friends are older and become ill themselves. 2 years ago she broke her ankle and ended up in plaster for 9 weeks. Our living room was turned into a bedroom, so there was nowhere to sit downstairs and have a meal or whatever, because there were carers coming in 4 times a day, and the pressure was just horrendous. I worked full time, always have done. My mother, just the more you do for a person, the more they expect, and my mother expected a lot. When I was working, she expected to be taken out at the weekends. This was when she was able to get in and out of a car. When that became not possible after her leg break, she just, everything was my fault. Got in touch through the intake team to a carers assessment, and that's how I got to have a carers assessment. So when I was contacted about the carers assessment, when Irene phoned me at home and asked if she could come to the house, and when you just hear assessment and you think, oh yes, I've done all this before, I know what to do, but she chose to come on a day where my mother was in the day centre, which I thought was a bit odd, but I thought it doesn't matter because I can answer all the questions anyway. And when she came and explained where she was from the Carers Centre, and this was an assessment about me, not about that my care was bad or what I was doing. It was about me as a person, and I was really quite surprised about that, in fact shocked. And I thought, no, this can't be right. She's going to ask me something about my mother now, but my mother wasn't mentioned at all. And I was, pleasantly surprised to think, oh, I could just talk about me and what I do, and how having working full time and how it affects you. It was a great thing to find out that there is a carer centre and what it can offer the carers. It's not for everyone, and I'm not one who spends a lot of time here, but I know the service is available, and I came to some jewellery classes here, and you can phone up any time. I've got up some financial help, how to follow it up, and it's just a great backup to know it's here and that somebody does care about a carer, because you do tend to be invisible, and it's lonely and it's isolating. And over the years, friends have not drifted away, but because you can't invite anyone to your house, because my mother's always there and you've got people coming back and forth, and it's just a nightmare. One thing I found really, really good, and it's such a simple thing, is a little card that I carry in my purse if ever anything happened to me, and it says that I'm a carer and what happens, and I live with my mum, and a telephone number, and that's excellent. And the number of people I pass cards on to, even if they're not registered with the Carers Centre, because it's just something they can carry around with them at any time. People get very lonely when they're a carer, and it's hard to ask for help. And even now, I know there's help out available for me, but sometimes you just struggle on, and then you just think, no, it's all too much. But I know there's a way